welcome to CTR, where our mission is to connect people with horses who wouldn't otherwise have the chance. And since we can't be together this summer, we are going to bring virtual horse-powered learning to you. Alright, welcome to episode 7, which is our final episode of Trails and Tales with the Harford County Public Library Summer Reading Challenge. This episode is brought to you by Foxy. She is a 22-year-old American paint horse, and she's going to be helping us talk to you today about horse behavior, parts of the saddle, and you may even get a little glimpse as to what it looks like to be on the back of a horse. About equine behavior and body language. We can tell a lot about how horses are feeling just by reading their body language, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how we do that today. So horses have emotions just like we do. They feel happy, they feel sad, they feel angry, they can feel scared, and we want to always be in tune with our horses so that we know how they're feeling and what they need from us, because they look to us as their leaders. So one of the biggest telltale signs of how they're feeling is their ears. So as you can see right now, Foxy's ears are fairly relaxed. Every once in a while she pricks them to look at something outside or look at the crazy things that we've been doing to her all day. But you see them listening. They go forward, they go a little bit back, like to the side like this. And that's her relaxed state. You can look at her eyes. They're softly blinking and closing, almost like she's going to take a nap. And her head is parallel to the ground, so she's relaxed. Now, if her ears were pinned back to her head, like this, that is a sign that she is very angry or acting aggressively, especially to her herd members, because they communicate with each other much the same way that they communicate with us. So, since her ears are back and we know she's not angry, you can see her eyes are still closed. If she was angry, her head would probably be raised. They can actually open their mouth and bare their teeth a little bit to show another horse or even a human that they are not happy and that they are acting aggressively. Now, horses are also what we call flight animals. Meaning, if there is something that they are afraid of, they will always run away from that thing rather than fight it. So, fight or flight, they are a flight animal. For example, some things that horses are afraid of are deer out in the field, a plastic bag blowing around in a tree or on the ground. Luckily, at CTR, our horses are really well trained and they're really used to us doing all sorts of crazy things to them. So they are a fairly relaxed group. But back to how we can tell how she's feeling. If she were acting scared, she would raise up her head. Her ears would be pricked way forward. We would see the whites of her eyes, and her whole body language would look rigid. They kind of stop and they look, and in that moment they're deciding if they're going to stay or run away. So other than looking at their head, we can also, kind of like I said, when possibly a horse is feeling scared, we can look at their whole body. So their legs, when they're relaxed, are going to be just like she is now. They might have one picked up a little bit. They shift their weight just like we do. She's not demonstrating that right now for us, but they often shift weight to get weight off of different legs. If their legs were stiff and rigid, they would be ready to run. They might kick out if they are feeling aggressive. And for her tail, we can also look at her tail. If it's just swishing loosely back and forth with the flies, that's fairly relaxed. But if it's pinned and tucked, she could be afraid or acting aggressively towards another horse. If they were running around afraid out in the field, you often see their tails hot. They're holding their tails up high. So in a handout that you're going to get with this week's episode, you're going to see some familiar faces on it, possibly some librarians that you might know. And they're going to be making different expressions that match what a horse can feel. So someone might be making a scared face, someone might be making an angry face, and I want you to match the horse face with the appropriate librarian face. And at home with mom or dad or your siblings, I want you to show each other. So show us what a scared face looks like. Can you make a scared face, Gail, even with your mask? Show us an angry face. Show us a sad face. And a sleepy face. And the other one on there is content or happy. So have fun matching those human emotions with the horse emotions, and we'll see you in the next segment.
All right, we interrupt this program to bring you some more
Bad jokes.
6, 7, 8.
Hey guys,
Hey,
I thought up a horse joke. Okay. When do horses talk? When you want to.
Arm circles.
Hey guys, back here.
Hey, Lady Godiva. You're cute.
I have a joke.
Okay.
Why did the lady stand behind the horse? To get a kick out of it.
Is that safe?
Don't try this at home.
Oh, hey, Molly.
Hey guys, what are
You came in just in time for my joke.
I did. Okay.
So, what allergy are horses most afraid of? Hay fever. Hey, get it? Fever.
Yep, get it. In this segment, we are going to be going over parts of the saddle before we review how to put a saddle on a horse. So you will be given this handout. It has a picture of an English saddle from a few different perspectives with little boxes and arrows pointing to the different parts of the saddle that we are going to review today. So you can see on this child-sized English saddle next to me, there are little labels that you are going to have to coordinate on your worksheet. We will start up top with the top of the saddle. Up here in the front, you have the pommel. In the back, you have the cantle. So you're gonna sit in between the pommel and the cantle when you are in a saddle, and we call where you sit the seat. So there's the pommel, there's the cantle, and right down here where you sit is the seat. This skinny part in the middle is called the twist. This is where the seat gets small and where the front of you will be seated in the saddle. Well, the back of you is back here near the cantle. Moving down the saddle, here we have the skirt. The skirt is a tiny piece of leather that protects your inner thigh from everything that we have going on under here. You can see we have these 3 pieces of metal that are labeled. So this one right here is the stirrup bar. This is where we attach the stirrup for you to put your feet in. We have here the D-ring that you can connect things to. And here we have a nail head. There are multiple nail heads that help keep the saddle together. Further down on the saddle, here we have the knee pad. That's this whole section in here. It helps keep your knees from pinching your horse's shoulders. Back here we have the stirrup keeper. So we pointed out the stirrup bar earlier that holds the stirrup, and this is where you put that extra leather. This whole section right here is called the flap. From here all the way up to the skirt is the flap. It's a flap because you flap it up and you can see what's underneath. So underneath the knee pad, we have the knee roll. These can be really big or really small depending on your saddle. This is a dressage saddle, so it's nice and big. Up here we have the billet keeper, and you might ask, what is a billet keeper? Well, it's the thing that keeps the billets. That makes it easy to remember. These are where the girth attach, and the girth is the belt for your horse. All the way under here, this bottom big piece is called the panel. The panel continues from here all the way up into the back underneath the seat and the cantle. Now, if I flip the saddle over, under here we have the gullet. And in the back we have the channel. So we want to make sure that the gullet and the channel do not touch our horse's spine. We want to give them space underneath where we sit so that they don't have something big and heavy pushing in on their back, just like you wouldn't want someone jumping on your back. All right, so those are all the parts of the saddles. The saddle. We are now going to show you how we put it on a horse. So we're now going to show you how we tack up our horse. We have Foxy here today helping us with this. But before we begin, I want you to imagine that Foxy is your foot. Okay, it sounds very silly, I know, but I want you to imagine, just picture it in your head. She's your foot. You don't have anything on it. You're barefoot. That's what Foxy is right now. So if I told you I wanted you to go put on running sneakers, okay? You're gonna go do gym class. Before you put on your sneaker, there's something else that you have to put on. You put on your sock because you want your foot to be comfortable. So over here, I have my little saddle rack, and on top, I have a piece of fabric that reminds me of a sock because it's made of fabric. I'm going to put this on my bare foot first, okay? So the same way that I would put my sock on my bare foot, I'm putting the saddle pad on the horse. After I put on my sock, I would then put on my shoe. So it's the big, heavy, protective piece of equipment. So I have here the saddle, which is the big, heavy piece of protective equipment for you. So I'm gonna gently put it on her back. We don't wanna throw this down on her. I'm gonna make sure it's sitting up nice and high in the front. So I have my foot, my sock, my shoe. Now, if you have shoes like I do, you wouldn't just put this on and then go running, because you would trip over your shoelaces and your shoe would fall off. So we don't want anyone sitting on the horse to fall off. We want to make sure that this stays in place. So we grab the long, skinny shoelace looking piece, and we want to attach this to the horse. That way this doesn't slide around. So when I put on the girth, I attach it to the billets. I'm going to slide my billets through the saddle pad or sock. I put the billets against the top roller on the girth so it doesn't get stuck. And I attach it not too tight, just like you wouldn't want a belt super tight around your tummy. And then I'm gonna slide it over to Miss Gail to finish attaching it on that side. Now, you may notice as she buckles that up, that there's a piece on the saddle that we did not have on the saddle earlier. This is our stirrup. This is where we put our foot when we're riding to help us if we need to stand up and post or do 2-point, any of those fancy things. And this is the stirrup leather that we have on the stirrup bar next to the stirrup keeper. So that's what we were missing on that other saddle that we have on this one. Now that Miss Gail has attached the girth, we want to make sure it's tight enough so that you don't fall off. If it's too loose, we'll tighten it up another hole. Sometimes the horses don't like this part. So just like we were talking about emotions, I'm watching her ears so that she's telling me what she's feeling as I tighten her girth. And once it's good, then I'm ready to ride. You are riding Dreamer from the perspective of a GoPro right now. So Dreamer's going to help us learn the basics of how we communicate with our horse when we're riding. So the first thing you need to know when you're riding a horse is how to stop your horse. All right, that is the most important thing we can learn. So if I want to stop my horse and I'm riding English, which here at Chesapeake Therapeutic Riding, we ride English, I will pull back evenly with both reins until my horse stops. So I want to make sure that my reins aren't super uneven. I want to make sure that I don't pull super hard or super suddenly because you don't want to hurt your horse's mouth. So I have both reins and I'm going to pull back evenly until he stops and then I'll relax. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and whoa, Dreamer. And then I relax. Now once we've stopped, we need to know how to go. So if I want my horse to go, I'm going to squeeze both my legs together as if I was trying to touch my heels. So we're going to squeeze Dreamer to walk on. Good boy. So let's try stopping and walking again. See if you remember. We're going to stop in 3, 2, 1. Whoa, Dreamer. We're going to relax our hands so that he knows we're going to ask him to walk on by squeezing. Squeeze. And there he goes. All right. So that's how we start and we stop when we're riding English. But we want to be able to walk more than just a straight line. We need to be able to steer. Just like when you're driving a car, you need to be able to turn the steering wheel. When you're riding a horse, you need to be able to steer your horse. So, if I want my horse to go to the left, so that's this hand over here, I'm going to pull on the left rein until my horse's nose points where I want him to go. So for example, I would pull this hand back towards my pants pocket. You can see his nose is going that way, and now we're going left. Same exact thing if I want to go to the right over here. I'd pull this rein back until my horse turns his nose to point where I want him to go. Now I'm keeping my hand down here. I'm not bringing it all the way up here. I'm not bringing my hand all the way out here. Straight back to my pants pocket. So now you're going to try it with me. Let's change directions by going to the right. So right rein to your right pocket. Pull until his nose points where you want him to go. Good job. And then we're going to go the other way. So pull the opposite rein. Get him to go where you want him to go. You're in charge. Very nice. Now, horses also can do more than walk. And in this video, we're just going to show you the second speed for English riding, the second gait, it's called, the trot. So in the trot, I'm going to do something called posting. Come on, Dreamer, get on the wall. Thank you. So that the camera doesn't bounce all over, but I just want you to see how fast the trot is. Now we get the trot the same way we get the walk after the halt. When our horse is standing still, we squeeze until our horse trots. And when I want him to slow down, I'll do the same thing I did going from the walk to the halt when we stopped. I'll pull on both reins. Alrighty, so we're gonna ask Dreamer to trot by squeezing. And now you are in a trot. This is the second gait in English riding. And we'll pull back to walk. Good boy, Dreamer.
Did you know that horses are herd animals? This means that they rely on other horses for their safety and their happiness. So our horses all have herds. They're separated into different fields, but they all have friends. And it's really interesting to watch the different dynamics between them throughout the day. So in a herd, there is a leader, a horse that sort of runs the herd and tells everyone where to go. And there's also there's followers, and they have a pecking order. So they decide amongst themselves who's going to be the leader and who's going to be the follower. And they do this by moving each other with their bodies. And we watch this throughout the day, throughout the weeks and months. Sometimes it changes. But in our herd, there are definite leaders and followers. Another interesting thing about their socialization is that they take care of one another. So horses rarely sleep laying down for long periods of time. Their knees actually lock so that they can sleep standing up. But when they do decide to lay down for a nap, you'll notice that a couple of them will lay down, and usually a couple of them will stand up and keep watch over them while those ones are laying down. And another thing they do is in the hot summer months when there's a lot of flies out, they all stand in a group and they often put their head in the horse in front of them, their tail. And that horse will be swishing its tail while it's also swishing bugs off of that horse's face. So there's lots of social dynamics between the herd, and it's always really interesting to see. And now for some bonus footage, the fourth and final chick incubator update, where we will show you that the chicks have hatched. All right, so we have temporarily transferred all of the chicken eggs to egg cartons so that we can take out the turning mechanism. And then we have to fill the remaining reservoirs. So during incubation, only one of the reservoirs was filled to keep the humidity at 50% or 50 to 60%. And now we're going to fill up the second reservoir so the humidity stays above 65%. All right, so we have all those eggs put in the little cardboard pods that we cut out earlier. And we space them apart so once they get rocking and rolling, hopefully they won't be knocking into each other. And it was very important that we put the eggs in the pods the way that they were in the turners, because the air sac is on top. They need to have that air sac. It's very important for hatching out. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of tape off so that we get airflow into the incubator during the lockdown period. It's very important for this stage that the chicks are in that they get airflow while they are hatching out. So hopefully we will see some action very soon. All right, we have our first one out of the egg. She took a long time, and she was in a very small egg, or it could be a boy. We're not actually sure yet. She's very tired, but all of her cheeping around should encourage the other ones to come out. You can see that this one has a little hole in its shell called a pip. That's the first little hole that they break in the egg before they hatch. And that one has a pip. She is noisy. And that one has a pip. And that one has a pip. So they're about a day late. Technically this is day 22, but it seems like there's a lot of action starting. This concludes episode 7 of Trails and Tales Summer Reading Challenge with the Harford County Public Library. We've had so much fun bringing you virtual programming this summer, and we can't wait to be together again. Don't forget to visit our website at www.ctrchanginglives.org and like us on Facebook. Bye!